Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the quiet, echoing hallways of the Los Angeles courthouse, Luna Nozawa sat rigid in her chair, the weight of the judge's gavel still vibrating in her bones. The words life imprisonment without the possibility of parole hung in the air like a death sentence to her soul. Big news indeed, shocking, outrageous, a plot twist straight out of the soap opera world she once flourished in. But this was no staged drama from the bold and the beautiful. This was her life, naked and unflinching. Luna, barely 22, had fantasized of glamour, love and redemption, only to find herself trapped in a fate that resembled the darkest spoilers of her favorite show. Was it her will? No, it was a tragic twist of fate. A one-of-a-kind story of agony constructed from ambition, betrayal, and justice's unwavering grip. Luna's journey began in the underbelly of Los Angeles, far from the rich Forrester Creations company that dominated the tabloid headlines. Born to a single mother in a small apartment in Echo Park, she grew up idolizing the opulent lives depicted on daytime television. The bold and the beautiful was her escape. Steffi Forrester's tenacity, Hope Logan's heartbreaks, and the never-ending cycle of love and revenge. One day, I'll be a part of that world, she'd say to her reflection while practicing poses in front of a cracked mirror. Her mother, Penelope, worked extra shifts as a housekeeper in high-end hotels to pay for Luna's community college tuition. Penelope's eyes always gleamed with calm pride, but they concealed a secret, a previous involvement with the exclusive circles that Luna desired. It began simply enough. Luna obtained an internship at a tiny publicity business where she occasionally crossed paths with the soap's cast. Her keen wit and breathtaking beauty, long dark hair cascading like a waterfall, eyes that could pierce through pretense, drew the attention of Finn, the attractive doctor role played by an actor who attended industry parties. In truth, Thomas Forrester's actor was the first to discover her during a rap party. He was older, personable, and known for blurring the barriers between film and real life. "You've got that star quality, kid," he added, giving her a business card. Luna's pulse pounded. This was her ticket in. She had no idea she was about to enter a labyrinth of deception. The actor introduced her to a group of insiders, producers, agents, and hangers-on, who promised modeling opportunities and screen tests. Parties became late-night discussions, with champagne flowing like the show's dramatic monologues. Luna, anxious to prove herself, overlooked the red flags. Locked doors, whispered transactions, and a slightly odd taste in her drinks. After a night of lights and laughter, she awoke in a stranger's apartment, her clothing disheveled and a vial of pills on the nightstand. Panic raced through her. "What have I done?" she exclaimed, but her memories were blurry, influenced by chemicals she had not agreed to. The real terror began as accusations poured. A high-profile executive from the show's network was found dead of an overdose, according to initial reports. But toxicology findings revealed a drug mix, and fingerprints pointed to Luna's presence at the party. She maintained she was innocent, that she had been framed by jealous competitors in the harsh world of Hollywood. Security footage captured her arguing with the executive, text messages created on her phone demanding hush money, and a witness stating she delivered the lethal dose. The media frenzy was ruthless. "Bold and beautiful in turn in murder scandal," exclaimed the headline. Luna's face, once full of optimism, is now featured in tabloids as the villainess. Her trial was a spectacle on par with any soap opera courtroom scenario. Prosecutors portrayed her as a social climber eager to kill for a chance in the spotlight. Defense attorneys claimed that prominent figures used entrapment and coercion to safeguard their secrets. Luna took the stand with her voice shaking. "I loved that show. It was my dream. But someone used me, drugged me, and made me the fall guy." Tears ran down her cheeks as she recounted the night. The actor's promises, the executive's approaches, and how she blacked out only to wake up accused. The jury, influenced by the prosecution's parade of expert witnesses and altered evidence, returned a guilty conviction of first-degree murder. Life in prison. The courtroom erupted and Luna slumped, sobbing, her dreams broken like glass underfoot. Luna's unique sad narrative developed when she was imprisoned at the California Institution for Women, leading to isolation. Cell block life was far from glamorous. Cold concrete walls, the clang of metal doors, and the stink of misery. Her cellmate, Maria, a former gang member serving time for homicide, became her reluctant confidant. "Kid, you got screwed by the system," Maria grumbled one night, offering her an illicit cigarette. Luna nodded and stared at the bars. Nights were the hardest. She'd replay Bold and the beautiful episodes in her head, picturing alternate endings in which justice was served. Letters from her mother come seldom, packed with love and requests for appeals. "Hold on, mihija. We'll fight this." However, appeals were unsuccessful. The evidence was found inadmissible, and the judges were unimpressed by her assertions of innocence. Luna's beauty faded under the harsh lights and a terrible diet. Her hair lost its sheen, and her eyes were hollowed out by sleepless nights filled with what-ifs. She joined a prison writing group and channeled her anguish into novels about mistreated heroines rising from the ashes, similar to Brooke Logan and Taylor Hayes. One narrative, Shadows of the Set, followed a fictional intern who was framed for a soap opera murder, reflecting her own circumstances. It spread underground, smuggled out by a friendly guard, and eventually drew the attention of a true crime podcaster. Elena Vargas, the podcaster, dug deep, exposing flaws in the case. Interviews with unnamed witnesses revealed the actor's history of cover-ups, as well as the executive's involvement in illegal activities. DNA retesting on the vial revealed traces that did not match Luna's. But justice proceeded slowly. By the time Elena's series became viral, Luna had served 2 years and her spirit was fraying. Protests erupted outside the prison with "Free Luna!" chants repeating her name. However, bureaucracy halted. Parole boards refused her, noting the gravity of the offense. "Life means life," they replied coldly. In her solitude, Luna formed odd relationships. She tutored younger convicts, teaching them cosmetic techniques from her bold days and transforming drab uniforms beautiful statements of rebellion. A jail romance sparked with a guard's wife volunteer, but it ended in heartbreak when the lady couldn't deal with the stigma. Betrayal stung the most from her mother. During a visit, Penelope admitted that she had known about the dangerous circles but remained silent, believing Luna's drive would pay off. "I thought it was your path to the stars," Penelope sobbed. Forgiveness was difficult, but Luna gave it, muttering, "We were both victims of dreams too big." As the years passed, Luna's story became legend within the prison walls, a cautionary tale of Hollywood's dark underbelly. She aged elegantly, her once young face imprinted with knowledge. Elena's podcast prompted a reinvestigation, resulting in a breakthrough. New evidence has surfaced. The actor's recorded confession, which was no longer bribed into quiet. The governor gave mercy, but not complete exoneration. House arrest with an ankle monitor, a half measure that left Luna connected to her history. Luna returned to Echo Park, her mother's apartment now a temple to a bygone era. The Bold and the Beautiful continued to show, its characters engrossed in new dramas, ignorant to her real-life story. She authored a memoir called Caged Starlet, which became a bestseller and exposed the industry's predators. Her voice remained strong as she advocated for wrongful convictions during subsequent speaking trips. However, the melancholy persisted, a distinct anguish of stolen youth, the life sentence reverberating in her limited freedoms. Luna spotted a plotline in the show that mirrored her ordeal, and in turn accused and rehabilitated. Tears welled up in her eyes when she understood her narrative had made an anonymous impact on the writers. Was it her will? No, but among the wreckage she discovered meaning. Life's bold and stunning revelations had surprised her, but perseverance, her genuine character arc, showed through the sadness. She sat in the cold, echoing hall of the prison, her fingers clenched around the thin blanket draped over her shivering body. The walls, hard and merciless, bore silent witness to her distress. Outside, the remainder of the daylight vanished, and so did her dreams. Luna reflected on everything she had lost, including her independence, dignity, hopes, and soul. The sentence resonated in her thoughts like a constant drumbeat. Life in prison. She had clung to flimsy hopes of escape, that someone would believe her, fight for her, and recognize who she was behind the darkness. But now the gavel had dropped, and reality had seized her ruthlessly. Despite the fact that voices and footsteps passed beyond the bars, she felt more alone than ever. There was once a future in her grasp. She had imagined a life outside the law, one full of second chances and flimsy promises. She had assumed that bearing a child would anchor her, link her to hope. That kid, her unborn child, had been her last connection to something clean and unadulterated. She had promised herself that once the kid was born, her faults might be forgiven or forgotten. Perhaps someone would recognize that she was still a mother, a woman with the right to love and restoration. But now that fantasy was choking in her chest, replaced by the hard reality that she would never be able to freely hold her child, feel its heartbeat against her own, or sing lullabies in a safe environment. In this place, motherhood would become a memory, a ghost she would lament. The child may be taken away from her. Who would think a convicted criminal deserved to keep a baby? She imagined hands delving into her belly and removing what she had so fiercely carried, placing it somewhere she could never return. Her thoughts returned to the moments leading up to the trial, the antiseptic atmosphere of the courtroom, and the excruciating stress. She had sat behind glass, her gaze darting across faces, some pitying, others disdainful, and some indifferent. She had attempted to relate her story. Desperation, terror, compulsion, and love transformed into something hideous. But how could words heal the devastation she'd caused? How could confessions and tears wash away the blood on her hands? She remembered the judge's final expression, a mix of judgment and sadness, and the weight of the sentence as it slipped from his lips. Life. It felt horribly absolute, as if a tomb had been shut before her eyes. She attempted to cry, but the tears would not come. They were dried up by shock and hollowed out by sorrow. Her breath trembled, and her entire body felt as if it would collapse beneath the weight of who she had become. She reflected on her mother, her blunders, and the pivotal moments she had missed. She recalled the moment that changed everything, when her life swung permanently into darkness. She could see like a horrible panorama, every mistake that had brought her here. The lies, manipulations, betrayals, and desperate acts made in the name of love or vengeance. She recoiled from the figure she saw in the mirror, a stranger but intimately familiar. She wished she could rewind everything, but such roads only led to more regret. Time had turned against him, extending endlessly ahead, years of concrete walls, iron bars, and shadows, a life reduced to a sentence. She despised the hush that followed her every step along the prison hallways, swallowing her voice before it could rise. She despised the guards' hard stares, the clanging of keys in the dark, and the distant yells and sobs. She despised how the world around her had moved on without her, how seasons had changed, stories had unfurled, and lives had progressed, while she remained trapped in this never-ending sunset. She despised the rust in her bones, the agony in her heart, and the emptiness that tore at her soul. In the darkness she would occasionally conjure a light, a frail glimmer, a recollection of a better time, and seek for it. However, the walls pressed in too much, and the light flickered and died. She'd draw her knees up to her chest and rock softly, saying the name she'd never pronounce out, mourning what she couldn't grasp and what she'd never experience. She remembered those she had harmed, the innocent and the betrayed. She attempted to summon remorse, to hang on to guilt as a link to the world she had destroyed, but guilt could not erase the damage. It simply harmed her more. She wondered if forgiveness existed in some hidden part of a heart behind bars. But if it did, it was far away and out of grasp. She felt undeserving of mercy. During those long evenings she struggled with the form of her regret. She wrote confessions she would never say and apologies she would never offer. She pleaded silently that someone somewhere would remember her as a woman before she was a crime, that she was flesh and blood rather than a broken shell. She imagined the kid she carried. Could they live without her? Can they experience love without her? Will they ever hate her? Will they ever wonder? She considered the families who had lost loved ones as a result of her actions, as well as the profound wounds she would never be able to mend. Their sorrow was real and irreversible, and she saw her own reflection, shattered and irredeemable. She did not dare to believe she could ever make amends. However, a small voice inside whispered that perhaps, in some way, she might bear the sadness and learn to live with it. That voice, however, was muffled by despair. When she understood the weight of her punishment was final, she felt her spirit fracture. She expected appeals, legal tactics, and mercy pleas. She had hoped for intervention, for someone to recognize the complexities underneath her horrible actions, a damaged soul in need of rehabilitation. But with the life sentence, hope faded. She couldn't picture going outside again, breathing fresh air, feeling the sun on her face and walking freely. Those modest freedoms had become unattainable luxuries she scarcely dared to recall. In her dreams she would walk a route toward a distant horizon, feel the breeze and say her child's name. But she constantly awoke to the same walls, gloom and vacuum. She dreaded sleep because it awakened longing, and awakening meant returning to misery. She often sat beside her cell's little grated window, letting in a sliver of moonlight. She gazed at the stars, frail points of existence beyond her reach. She wondered who she was, and who she had lost, and placed her palm to the cold glass as if she could feel something outside. And with that contact, she felt the wound of her loss. She would sometimes mumble into the darkness, "I'm sorry." It was a prayer, a confession, or a plea. But the darkness devoured their words as if they were meaningless. She hoped that someone would hear her, a guard, a warden, a visitor, and put their hand through the bars to tell her she was important. But nobody ever did. In rare instances a memory would emerge, laughing from a long ago, a sweet voice calling her name, a childlike promise of light. They came and went like ghosts, fleeting and bittersweet. They reminded her that she had lived in a world of potential, and that love or innocence existed within her. However, those memories were frail, withering beneath the weight of her incarceration, as if her identity were seeping through fissures. She came to regard each sunrise, what she could see of it through the barred window, as a terrible joke. A reminder that time marches on as she remains trapped in her darkest hour. Each morning she felt a new wave of anguish, lamenting the life that would no longer be hers, the future lost before it had began. Despite her brokenness, she vowed to survive. Not because she thought she deserved pity, but because giving up would be another sin against her soul. She would accept the sentence as a penance, bear the weight of remorse, and strive to find purpose even in this darkness. She would speak to the kid she would never have, to the people she had hurt, that she remembered, lamented, and regretted. She would let her pain speak for her when she couldn't, as a monument to what her life had become. And in the stillness of her prison cell, Luna cried for what she had done, what she had lost, and the woman she had once been, as well as the small hope of who she might become in the silence beyond the bars.